Alright guys, she's a bit fucking chilly tonight. Never mind my little wee miniature sun up the back here that's going to put a strange fucking bright blur across the fucking top of the old Camerooni. And no, Matt, I'm not wearing my high vis. I got my hunting chop on because duck shooting season's coming up. It's nearly here. It's nearly there. So, just saw Braden's post about designing, so I thought I'd do a quick wee video of how I go about it. Designing's designing, so bear with me, it'll be a bit chop and changey. Pretty much I can do this now because I'm going to do a shell for myself. I've had a few thoughts running through my mind on how I'm going to do it. It's the colours I'm going to use are the same ones I stuck on that 1/8 EP buggy. So I want to have the background being the kind of galaxy style because I really like that. And then I'm going to use the blue, the green and the orange to go with it. But I'm not going to go flamey and then drips in the front. I just did that in the buggy because I can do them really quickly and it's easy. I'm going to do more of a geometric style on the truggy and also on this lovely touring car shell that I've got here. So I have a kind of basic idea of what I kind of think I want it to go like and how I want the colours to go. So again, it's going to be orange at the front with the green mid layer and then the purpley, bluey, blacky galaxy kind of design at the back. But I kind of have got this image in my mind that I want the I don't want that galaxy stuff just at the back of the shells. I want it to come through the centre line as well. So a little bit on the bonnet, just in the front part of the bonnet, a little bit through the roof, and then going into the background. So I've kind of, this video is going to be how I kind of slowly work towards getting how I want the drawing to go. So it'll be a bit piece by piece. Hopefully it makes sense. So the first thing I always fucking do, it's actually usually the second thing I do. First thing I normally do is do the window trims, but we don't need to see that. You can see, hopefully, maybe I'm looking through the shell, you can see I've got a centre line drawn on. So I've just eyeballed this. You can use the old masking tape trick, but this shell was pretty easy. I'm able to draw a pretty easy fucking centre line straight down the middle. And that means that when I design, I don't design the whole fucking car. I just do one half of the shell. The conversation before about using tracing paper. I always use tracing paper. Why would you spend the time trying to make two sides look the same by eyeballing them? You fucking do a rough sketch, tracing paper, bam, done skis. And then you've got it there the next time someone else wants another fucking shell. He's like, oh, I've got it, pull it out of my wee file, and under it goes with a sticky tape, boom. Drawing done. It's just so much easier, and that way you can actually only need to concentrate on one half of the shell when you're drawing it, and you can just rub it out and start again, and it actually gives you kind of two templates to use. So if you kind of get through one, you're like, yeah, I kind of like it, but I'm not too sure. Well, then you still got a whole other half of the car that you can then draw another design on and go, which one do I like better? So it kind of works both ways. So what I'm going to do is I'll quickly pause it here, and then I'll put in some rough sketching of kind of how I want it to go. I have a basic idea of what I want it to do, so I can kind of rough in a couple of the areas that I know will have certain sections in it, and then I can then come back, show you those, and go, this is why I've done this, and then I can pause it again and then sketch in the next layer and go, this is why I've done this. And by the end of it, you'll see actually how I get my layers actually drawn up. I usually start with the first layer and I base all the rest of the layers off that. So you don't have to think about 3 individual layers, because all 3 layers should technically be cohesive with the very first layer that went in to start with. And I use that methodology to actually make my designs work. So my first layer is always complemented by the second layer, and that second layer actually, in drawing that second layer, actually makes the third layer anyway. That brings up that whole positive negative space. Because I've drawn that third layer, the second layer with the idea of positive negative space, I don't have to think about a third layer because that's naturally made by that second layer. So it kind of, that's how I roll. So I'll pause it here. I'll quickly rough in a little bit of what I want this shell to kind of start doing, and then you'll see my process of how I actually get from a blank shell to a full-fledged kind of rootin' tootin' fucking cowboy. So hold fire. Alright, so that's what I've drawn so far. Alright, So what I'm liking is, from my previous shells that you can see up behind me back here, those yellow and fucking blue and pinky ones, I really liked how I had this design coming up the nose here. So what this has allowed me to do is this section here will be opened up for some of that kind of galaxy colour to come through. This here will be my front colour, which will be the orange, most likely with a black, maybe a silver pinstripe. And so I've kind of already, from creating this shape here, I've already set kind of the angles that I want everything to flow at. So this is going on an angle up the shell like this. Now when you're designing, you want to make, if you're doing straight line designs, you want everything kind of flowing in the same direction. So yes, this line here goes in the opposite direction, but that's okay. The majority of the design is going on an angle away and up from that center line. So I can now base everything off this initial line here. So when I start moving on to this bit, which I already had a quick wee sketch of and didn't like, I'm going to be basing the angle that this flows on from this angle here. And everything will just flow off it. So I'll most likely come up and then I'll go up on an angle and then I'll go up on a dart bit up here, then back down, and then probably throw in another dart to get me over here. So I'll quickly draw this up and then come back for you. But it's kind of, you find a starting point, you kind of have an idea of what you want as your centerpiece of your design, and then you work everything off that. So this was my centerpiece, this big fucking darty piece right up the front onto the windscreen, and everything is going to be based kind of off that. So I'll try and draw a little bit more and we'll see how we go. And just like that, changed my mind. So this is the joys of doing your center line and only drawing on half, is you can see this side was the side I started drawing on, and then I decided I'd try something different, so I've drawn this side. Just roughed in some lines. Still going to have the galaxy coming in here, and then this section's going to be where the green comes in, so we'll have some green on the bonnet. And then I got the orange section down here, but this wee line in here I'll actually just use with the orange. When the orange goes into that yellowy stage, I'll actually fade in an edge of orange there as well to give a kind of like a ghost line. So you can see how already, from just kind of having a basic idea, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So I've now got a bit of an issue where when I've drawn this kind of dagger line coming up here gets a little bit too close to this edge, and it's going to be hard for me to bring the sides in. So I actually need to shift all of that towards the center a wee bit, which means I need to shift all of this towards the center. You can see I've kind of got a rough line that I've previously done. So I'm going to just kind of work all of this back across the center just to move everything over so I can get enough of the design in that it will actually then go on to the side design nice and easy. So, I mean, when doing designs, there's no right or wrong way of doing it, but if you have a good understanding of where to start and how to get your lines all flowing, it makes your designs that much more cohesive. One thing that you want to get away from is that haphazard triangle design. So you'll notice a lot of my shells, when I do these geometric style designs, I haven't really got any triangles on them. I use the triangles to finish off a part of a design, but most of the design is filled up with more of a geometric shape. I've seen a lot of shells where it's triangles, and you're trying to make triangles fill in with triangles. Try and get away from the triangles, because I use triangles at the ends of my patterns, and then I'll use a real tight wee triangle like this one I'm trying to draw in here, just to fill in a little bit of space. But I never ever kind of make anything out of just plain triangles, because it's kind of it's just a fucking triangle. It's just, I just don't like them, so hence why I don't do them. And I find that when shells are done that way, I kind of look at it and go, if you had have just erased one of those, every second triangle, and just stuck in, you know, something like this, come down. So where a lot of guys are doing triangle, and then triangle. If you take out that middle fucking triangle and then just move your line down like this, you end up with a much cooler fucking shape. It's easy to cut, it looks cooler, it's easier to paint. You've got more room to move. It also gives you much better lines to be able to follow and get that secondary shape in behind it. If you're just doing triangles, the only thing you can put around a triangle is another fucking triangle. So you end up with a shell full of fucking triangles. Hashtag no triangles. So kind of one of those things to really think about when you're designing. I had the pleasure of finding Max RC Airbrushing on Facebook, and I went through all of his artwork and looked at what he did, and I blatantly copied a lot of it. But when I say I blatantly copied, I didn't directly copy it, because as I started to put different designs down on the shell, I found out what things actually worked for me. And very seldom do I ever do just a triangle, because they're just a fucking triangle. You can't get any kind of coolness in them. They're just a fucking triangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly wipe a bit of this out, and then I'll just kind of shunt this all over a little bit, and I might hit it with a big Sharpie just because my pens are getting a wee bit fucked on, and then hopefully kind of get it half pie cleaned up, and you'll see what I've come up with. I'm going to leave the other side there because I still quite like what I've done, but it's just kind of, it's not singing to me where this could possibly sing to me for my shell with the complexity I want on it. So bear with me, hashtag no fucking triangles, and we'll see what this kind of turns out to be. So hold fire. Alright, a couple of wee tricks. When drawing, Q-tips make really good erasers. Don't need anything on them, just rubs it off. The other really cool trick, the old barbecue skewers. Matt's already found the gloriousness of these fucking fantastic pieces of fucking sharpened bamboo. Not only good for removing paint, but really good for trimming up messy pen lines when you're sketching. So from that messy sketch before, that's what I'm coming up with. So I've moved that whole design across. This here's changed. I've also now brought that line down there because I thought, nah, let's bring the green down a wee bit further, which trimmed all this up nicely. Didn't leave as much space inside here. And then you can see that nice fine triangular dart going up, which has left me enough room to now have a play around with whatever I want to bring onto the side. So I always use bits like this when doing geometric designs on both buggies, truggies, touring cars, whatnot. If I can finish the design on the bonnet with a wide line like this, I can quite easily go into any other design on the side, quite fucking simply. Where's that two-wheel drive I did earlier? So you can see again, transition to the side via a fat line. Straight across. Piece of fucking piss. Do it all the time. It just makes being able to join your sides up to whatever's on the bonnet so much easier. You just, as long as you can go up high towards that window, so on a buggy go right up towards the window on the cab, touring cars go as high up as you can to the windowsill, and that way you can quite easily bring it across and then come along the sides, and you'll end up missing all the front part that usually gets like wheel wells and stuff stuck on it. So try and get your designs to come right up high, and that way you can easily move them into the sides. So, you know, that was just a quick wee play around with... Put that there on there. Oh, hold on, this way, it's much fucking easier. Quick wee play around. I've got to, of course, shape this a bit better. This is going over an asshole ridge, so it's kind of starting to curve a wee bit. I've just got to trim it up. So this is what I was saying on the chat before about straight lines don't adhere to curves very well. So doing a pre-cut stencil is a waste of fucking time, because when you stick it on, it's going to be fucking curved. So you really got to play around with lines like that. Now, you may be thinking that's quite tight. I mean, yeah, it is, but if I can draw it, I can cut it. My pen's a 0.3mm tip. My blade's, what, fucking 0.001mm? So don't be afraid to tighten stuff up. Whenever I do wee darty triangles like that, they're real fucking fine, and they're just used as a bit of a transitioning block to move the layers on. One thing I'm liking is this layer in here. I'm liking what it's doing with this. Here's going to be green in here, and that bit's going to be the Galaxy. Now I'm thinking about just putting a wee touch in here as well, just to break this up. So I might just quickly draw something in there, just to see what that ends up looking like. Just to break it up, otherwise it's going to be a lot of green. So bear with me, I might just sketch something in there, and we'll have a fucking sniff and see what it looks like. Well, short answer, no. Not enough fucking room to do anything with pinstripes and stuff, so we're going to leave that as it is. Now, so that's my bonnet design. I'm going to now start looking at moving up onto the roof. I normally do, I'll normally start with sides, and do sides and then go onto a bonnet and a roof. Or I'll start with the bonnet, go onto the roof, then do the sides. I always find that the bonnets and the roofs, they work together. So always try and complement what you've got on the bonnet, whether it's a buggy, a truggy, a fucking touring car, whatnot. Complement what you got on the bonnet with what you got on the roof. So I really have this thing about pulling stuff up onto the window. I just think it looks cool. You're allowed to paint your windows, just not all of them. So you can see I've stopped this line here though, but that gives me the opportunity. I can still follow these lines up into the roof section and start creating some cool shapes up there. Also, you've got to take into account that the angle that the design's flowing on. So whenever I do a bonnet, I normally go, so if it's facing me, the design will always go out that way. So when I'm on a roof, the design can't go in because it'll look fucking dumb. It's got to follow those same sort of angles that the bonnet's flowing with. You can start, now it becomes a bit tricky when you're doing buggies, because buggies tend to narrow in when they get to the back. I mean, this touring car does as well, but it's not as noticeable. So when you get to a roof on a buggy, you can actually, instead of going out, if you just straighten it up a wee bit, you'll still actually maintain the same sort of flow. So it starts going out and away from the centre line. When you get to the roof, you'll just go in line with the centre line. You can make them go out a wee bit, depending on how much room you got. And then I usually follow down the back windows as well. Sometimes I go on the trunk lid of a touring car, if there's enough room, but a lot of shells have these gay fucking ribs and shit for fucking strengthening and shit, so it's a bit of a pain in the ass. So, with this shell, like I said, I wanted to have more of that Galaxy kind of design in the centre line. Now the question is do I have it at the start or at the back? I've got these lovely little lines that are coming in already, but that might kind of throw the whole design out of whack a little bit. So it's probably going to be a wee bit funny to do that. So I might kind of mimic how I've got the Galaxy on here coming in from the back, but try and take it a wee bit further down maybe. I'm not too sure. The orange part and the green part are going to be interesting. I think I might have the green part going onto the windows at the rear, and then try and keep the orange part a bit smaller on the roof. So normally my main colour would be at least half full on the roof and extend out over the back. But I might pull that orange back a wee bit and then have my green part going down the back of the windows. These things are just what you can play with. And again, you just pick up your pen and you start drawing. You've already got kind of how the lines are going to lay out on the shell, and it's just thinking, oh, okay, let's just start drawing and see what it starts to look like. You can see the end of my Q-tip is covered in black ink because that's how much I've rubbed out so far. So I never get it right the first time. It's always, I'll sketch a fucking line and I'll see what it looks like. I'll sketch some more lines and go, yeah, we'll rub a bit of that out and we'll move it across a wee bit and fucking shimmy it up. And before long you end up with the whole fucking shell covered in ink. And then I trace it off. So I'll quickly lay down some shit on here. Like I said, I want that the key thing is to have the green going over the rear window and the Galaxy showing through a good portion on the top of this roof. If I can get it to go a line all the way through somehow, so the Galaxy's right over the roof, I'm going to try and do that, but we'll see how we go just as the design progresses. But I've got the idea in my mind. I want green on the window, and I want galaxy as far through the roof as possible. So that's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to start by drawing the green on the window, see how that flows, and see what that creates, because then that will, if I get that done, I then know, well, that's created my galaxy part straight away, because that's what's left over. And then the space that's left in behind, I just got to throw a little bit of orange in there. And then that's the roof done. So it's kind of my process. I use one layer to dictate how all the rest of the layers are going to form. Even if I was doing a flame design or a scallop design, I'd do the same thing. I'd have an idea of where I want my colours to go, and if I start with one colour and design that, then that gives me the limitations of the other colours designed to flow around that. So there's no point sitting there going, oh, well, I want this here, and I want that there, and I want that there, and I want this here, and oh, how am I gonna work it out? You start layer by layer. So I know I want green on the windows, and I know I want the galaxy to come quite far to the front of this roof. That's where I'm going to start. And then where the orange falls, well, who gives a fuck, because its main part is the front of the shell. Now, as long as I get a little bit on the roof and it looks good, that's where I'm going to sit. So breaking your design down into where the key points are going to be makes designing so much easier. So I'll pause it here. I'll do a couple of wee rough sketches and we'll come back so it's not too long a video. We're already at 21 minutes. So got what I think will be the roof done. Never let a good design go to waste. So that was the first half I did. I was like, yeah, it's alright. And then I was like, well, I really kind of like what I did down here. I really like this bit. I really like that as a green piece. So I altered it slightly and brought it up into here. Boomf. Use something that I'd drawn earlier. So I've got quite a nice cohesive design going on there. Had to finish it into down this side into the window here. So I'm going to actually have quite a good amount of that galaxy. So this part here is going to be the galaxy. And so is in the centre here. So there's a good amount of it. Yes, it's a dark colour, but the contrast of that green and pinned with the gold and then the orange as well, it's not like I'm going to miss it on the racetrack. I mean, you'll see the front of the car. Who cares about the back? I'll probably might try and break it up a wee bit by this section at the back here. I might bring some green back into here, just in the centre area here, which isn't hard to do. It's just fucking draw a shape in there. But you can see with just a little bit of playing around and just following the same lines. So it's all the same lines. And there's a lot of rubbing out and starting again. So my process is kind of just get an idea of what shape design you want to use, get a kind of angle of flow on your shell, and then just start drawing some lines in. You can see here, if I can get a good shot, look how rough that stuff is over this side. That's just roughed in, really rough. And then I go back in and clean it up. So this stuff's been cleaned up, but it was rough. I did this part here about 4 times until I got it right. These shells are really annoying too. The roof's quite a bubble, so it's real hard to do a straight line on it. But it's just kind of just repeating the same stuff over and over again, but changing it up just ever so slightly so that it's not the same thing over and over again. You break it up. So, you know, what started out as down here, this here's broken up with this step design here, kind of off-angled parts here. This here's stepped in, and it kind of creates, you know, it's the same but it's different, if you get what I mean. And it's a real easy way of getting really good designs laid down really quick. So you don't have to be have a Masters of Art or anything like that to draw a design on a shell. It's more about just taking your time and kind of just getting everything to flow the way you want it to do. Don't try and design a shell in 2 hours. Wait, just no. I mean, some people give me shit because I take too long. Yeah, I take fucking forever for some shells because I just can't be fucked doing them. People give me stupid shells to do, and I'm like, really? Draw a cock and balls on it for you. More exciting than what you've come up with. But, you know, it's don't sell yourself short with your design. Don't think, well, I can't cut that tight. Yes, you fucking can. If you can draw it, you can cut it that tight. And just slowly mapping it out. So when I'm drawing, I've got the old 0.3mm. Steal these off Sparkies. These come in the packs of electrical test and tag things. So if you know a Sparky, say, hey mate, you got any Transfield test and tags in your van? Can I steal your fucking pen? We've got a guy whose his job is to test and tag places. He's a test and tag man. It's what retired Sparkies do for a living. They go out and test and tag appliances. The amount of tags he uses is phenomenal. So he has like fucking hundreds of these pens. So I steal them off him. He just brings them into the workshop and gives them to me. They're by far the best pen. Sharpies are shit. They're not black. They're kind of like this. They're like Proline black. It's not black. It's almost see-through. These are just fantastic. Q-tip for rubbing it out. Scrunched up paper for rubbing your design out. And barbecue stick for rubbing it out. So I use this like if I've got a line where I've gone down it a couple of times, it's a bit thick, I can just scrub out little bits. Oh, look at that, it's a perfect fucking 1/2 mil line now. Just too easy. And just slowly build up from where you start off. So all my designs are always built upon an initial design that goes down, and I build everything around it. And that's the easiest way to do it. If you can't go in and go, I'm going to, right from word go, draw a 4-layer design, and I'm just going to sketch it out. It's not going to work. Have a basic idea of what style you want to do it in, and a kind of basic idea of some of the cool shapes you want to have in it. And from there, you can actually just build upon it. I'll grab Simon Noten's shell down, and I'll show you on that one, because I spent ages doing his. So you may not be able to fucking see half it, because he sticks a whole heap of stickers on. But Simon's shell, I actually drew this on a piece of paper one day when I was at Port Otago. I was sitting up in the crane, I had nothing to do, so I went and hid in the crane and printed out a whole heap of... you used to be able to get templates on RC Tech Forum. For touring cars and buggies and stuff, people would draw them up, and so they were blank pieces of paper that you draw designs on, so I did it on that. So I had a rough... I knew he wanted blues and whites, and he wanted a Casper on the back. The Casper was the easy part. So for the rest of the shell, I was like, well, what the fuck am I going to do? Because Simon's a fucking good driver. I also know he's quite particular. And so I seen a couple of shells that had the real kind of... The design work was quite hexagonal, and so that's what I went with. So I started drawing just fucking areas that were kind of partial hexagons. And I built around that. And that's how I came up with this design. Now this design has won like 6 concours so far, 5 or 6 concours. It's won like North Island's like fucking 3 times. I think it's won a nationals. It won an Australian nationals on a pan car. And all I started with was, well, I want a geometric design that incorporates some kind of hexagonal designs in it. Because of course I've got the ghost hex ghosted in. And that's what I based the shell on. So it's all based upon one idea of one main shape. When I'm designing... I start with a main shape in mind. So normally what I'll do is, on a touring car or a buggy, I normally start on the sides on a buggy because it's the biggest area, and I'll go, I want this shape here, so I'll draw out that initial shape, and then I put everything around it. So like I said, with the touring car I've just done, I really liked that shape, which is kind of stolen from these ones up there. They've got it on the bonnet. And so I kind of wanted that shape in there, so that's what I kind of started with. I didn't like it on the bonnet in the end, so I kind of just took what angle it was flowing on, and I built around that, and that's how I did that second side. And then when I moved to the roof, I still want this shape. So I've biffed that shape in, I've drawn it in, as it is. This ain't the shape that's on the roof anymore, it's changed. Because it didn't fit properly, but I wanted the overall essence of that shape, and that's what you got to get. Don't expect to go into a body shell going, I'm going to put this on it, because you're not. Plain and simple, you're not. It's going to have the essence of that to it. And everything will change as you go along. It may not end up the way you wanted it because it may just not fucking work. But as you progress and you add extra bits in, you'll get where you want to go with it. A couple of key things. Be bold. Just do a nice big bold one. This is going to